Date was. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the Village Board meeting to order. I look for approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 3, public appearances and citizens' comments on items not listed on this agenda. Items will not be debated on or acted upon to this meeting, but will be referred to the proper staff or committee if action is required. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. No one in the gallery, so moving on. Item 4, approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. New business. Consideration, discussion, investment policy amendment. Page, are the numbers right tonight?
Yes, I believe so.
Page
I'm never gonna let you
eight-
live that down.
Trying to find good help, Roger.
Yeah.
Page 18 in your packet.
All right, so the updated investment policy, there's not a ton of changes, but I basically changed it to expand past CDs for investing. And so I just list that we can invest in anything that's allowed in Wisconsin statute. So we're in line with state statute. We're just kind of expanding our opportunities for investment. I also took out seeking prior approval from the village board before investment transactions, and not because Kelsey and I want to go off and do a bunch of investing on our own, but there are certain situations where something changes in the market and our investment professionals will say, hey, you can take advantage of this opportunity, and we don't want to wait for another village board meeting to do that. If Kelsey and I are ever unsure, we will be bringing this to you for approval, but I think it's nice to have some flexibility there. Other than that, I added a reporting section that just makes sure that we're, getting back to the village board about what's going on with investing, so you all are aware. But other than that, pretty straightforward amendments.
Move to approve the investment policy amendment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item B, consideration discussion AMG investment proposal. Page 21.
So this is the same group that came and spoke with us a month or so ago. Kelsey and I have continued discussions with them about possibly investing additional funds of the village. We explored investing 3 different funds: the wastewater replacement fund, the village reserve, and our sinking funds, which aren't currently combined, but that's something that Finance and Personnel Committee will be exploring. And so I had them put together some information on what investing those might look like. They are here today. Oh, I gotta let Dave back in here.
Oh, thank you. I was just gonna ask.
Yeah, so they're here today to give some more information and answer any questions you might have.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I just got cut off for a second. I don't know what happened, but thank you for bringing me back in.
Yeah.
I missed the great introduction. Did I?
Oh, Dave, I'll tell you all about it. It was fantastic.
Oh, well, again, thank you so much for having us. It was good to see you all again. So first off, I just want to thank everybody. Thank you all for your trust in helping us help you get your bond reserves invested. Lauren and Kelsey, I hope you found the transition and the onboarding fairly straightforward and simple. And it's been great working with both of you too, not just through that, but just through this last couple weeks as well, to talking through what we're going to talk about tonight. I believe our references went well, and you're able to check them off pretty easily. So thank you all for that. So I just want to jump right in. You should have in the packet, I believe, the couple page document that we put together to talk about what you're looking at as a.
I can share it also. Would it be helpful if I put up on the screen? That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. So basically, the next phase of this whole iteration, speaking with Lauren and Kelsey, the village is looking at, possibly diversifying a little bit more the general funds that you guys are managing that are currently now almost all in unmanaged fluctuating money market accounts at Lake Ridge. So there are also a couple CDs that are with the Bank of New Glarus, as I think you're all aware, that are scheduled to mature in this July and next January. So in speaking with Lauren and Kelsey, the village does want to explore diversifying that a little bit, or at least getting your toe in the water a little bit to see how this is might work from just pretty much all money market, but also maintaining a very conservative stance with this, because this is new, and it's you want to make sure that you have the control over this process and you see what's happening. So the idea, at least initially, was for talking with the ladies, is that we could possibly take a look at a couple of different funds, which you can see on the document there. The one replacement fund, a reserve fund, and the sinking fund, which currently isn't combined, but you guys are talking through maybe doing that. The Village Reserve Fund doesn't have those two CDs in them right now. When they mature, they would go into that fund too. So that would be something we can talk about as we, as a next step in this as those mature. But that's about 1.4 million in funds. I believe most of it isn't really needed to be accessed too much. So that's why I think these funds were initially picked. And they're all, like I said, all of them are in the Lake Ridge money market account right now. So what I wanted to do before we get into like what we think a good strategy could be for that is just give you a little bit of a history lesson in terms of the federal funds rate. And the federal funds rate, which why we bring this up, is that's really what drives the short-term rates, which include money markets. So this chart here, and you can see in your packet too, gives a graphical representation of what those bullet points above are showing and speaking to. So basically, from 2008 to 2016, 2008 being the start of the last big recession, if you remember the housing bubble and all that, the Fed dropped that rate to near 0%, and it stayed there for 8 years, basically. When Trump came in office, the funds rate was slightly increased, which is still a relatively low rate. And then when COVID hit, they dropped them again to near zero. As you know, the economy shut down, and there were trillions of dollars that were entered into the economy in those years, which seemed to cause inflation starting in 2022, which rose to over 9%. And the Fed said, well, we got to stave that off. We want to try to get inflation down. So we're going to need to step that Fed funds rate up pretty quickly, which they did in a year and a half, from about 0% all the way up to its peak of 5.5%. So that drove the money market rates that we've seen the last couple years, which a lot of municipalities like yourself have enjoyed. The Fed decided then in September to start lowering the rates because they believed inflation was in check or getting in check. So they stepped it down 3 different times at the end of last year, a full 1%. So now the Fed funds rate sits at 4.5%. And so it's dropped a percent, and money markets have followed suit. They had initially continued, they're looking at continuing some additional rate cuts into 2025. Inflation came in a little bit hotter in December and January, so they slowed a little bit their thoughts on that. But the thought is that they're still going to cut at least 1 or 2 more times as we go into 2025. So that's still a possibility. So if you can scroll down a little bit more. So going forward, just looking, we don't know what that exactly going to look like. It's going to look like they believe they're going to continue to cut, but nobody really knows for sure. So now looking at back just from this past August, what did that do in terms of your rate at Lake Ridge? And then little comparison to the 1-year Treasury, which is a little bit more stable. So you can see on the top line there is your rate from August. So 5.6 down to 4.6 in about a 4-month period. The orange line in the middle there is the Fed funds rate, which I've talked about before. They dropped at 1%. And then the 1-year Treasury yields. they've come down a little bit over the same period of time, but as you see, the lines are getting closer and closer together. You don't know what's going to happen as the time goes on in the next year. There is a projection that the Fed funds rate will slowly, like I said, a couple of cuts are potentially going to come over the next year in this year, calendar year 2025, and bond yields are still at historical highs, but we don't know how long that's going to last. So that's why just a little graphic give you a history on what we've seen, what history has shown, and how it affects the money markets in general. Are there any comments or questions? I'll take a little pause here before we move on to what we think is could be a good strategy as you dip your toes into the pond of possible investing.
Okay.
You good? Any questions? All right. So what we think, and I know you talked about it, and I got cut off when you were talking about it, but we believe the first step if you want to start investing in other than CDs is to amend the investment policy. And again, I don't know what you were starting to talk about it when I got cut off, but our recommendation would be to amend your internal investment policy, which will allow for the purchase of other securities.
Dave, I'll hop in. They did.
They did.
State statutes.
Okay, so hey, all right, so we can check that one off. I'm glad you took our first recommendation already, just like that. Well, then that loosens things up, obviously, and makes things a little bit easier to take this next step, which is the investment strategy that we're recommending. So, as I mentioned, you have the 1.4 million that on those three funds that Lauren and Kelsey said this is sort of the starting point. Our recommendation to start, at least, is to take about 3/4 of that money from those three funds and to invest it in those very safe fixed income securities. And in speaking with Lauren and Kelsey, we agreed that a 2-year period would be a good duration for these funds, and have those securities mature every quarter. So what we did with the bond reserves, just to back up a second here, is that those don't need to be as liquid as maybe these funds need to be. So we put those, if you recall, you may not recall, but we put those in a ladder 1, 2, and 3 years. So we have securities that are maturing every year. In terms of these type of funds, since they're more general funds and you may need more liquidity, we said, hey, you know what would be a good duration in terms of maturation, and they agreed that maturing every quarter would be beneficial and safe. So that's what we'll look at in this chart here down below in a moment. But in addition to that, utilize the money market as it's still at a relatively high rate, and keep about 1/4 of it in that Lake Ridge money market, which does a couple of things. It does, like I mentioned, number 2 there, you can take advantage of the higher rates. And number 1 is you still have access to immediate liquidity right there. So not only do you have securities that are maturing every quarter that gives you liquidity, you also have a portion of this 1.4 million still in the money market, still taking advantage of it. So the strategy overall, as we go forward, is you still have your preservation of capital, which is the most important thing when you're talking about funds like this, as well as liquidity, while also being able to take advantage of the fixed rates for the longer period of time. So you're not having all your eggs in one basket as you have today, or most of your eggs in one basket. You're being able to take advantage of a variety of things here, while starting to diversify your portfolio a little bit more. So what you see down in the little chart there is a recommendation. It's obviously, this was a snapshot in time when we put this together. This was as of February 13th, so about a week ago. And you can see there is the money that's showing up there, the breakdown there, 1/4 in the Lake Ridge money market at as of last month at 4.6%. Not sure what it is today, but and then taking the remainder 75% and breaking it up into equal amounts, and then investing so that the securities would mature every quarter. We have a variety of securities in there, treasuries. You also have commercial paper, which is really a very good. Commercial paper is a short-term corporate, basically corporate bonds, if you will, that mature no more than 270 days. And so those corporations need that money quickly, so they offer a higher yield. So you can see those shorter term ones are higher yields. We also have an agency bond there showing May 26th. So again, this is just a snapshot. You know, if we move forward with this at that particular time, whatever the best yielding securities are, like we did with the bond proceeds, that's what we would recommend. But this just gives you an idea. We have, now that you've opened up the investment policy, you have access to a little bit more, and you can be a little more diverse. Also, we also put in there as well when the CDs mature, and the approximate amount that they're going to mature at when they mature in July and in January. So you can see those aren't calculated in the total amount. It just shows you when they're going to mature. If you look at that 1 year duration, so this 2 year period without any reinvestments, if we were just to put you in these securities but not reinvest when each quarter came up, you'd still earn about $50,000. So that's a good, you can book that, you know what you're going to get, when it's going to mature, and I'll show you that on the next page in a moment. But this is sort of a picture of what it would look like going forward, potentially. Are there any questions or comments at this point? Nope. Perfect. All right, move on to the last page here. So this is what I was mentioning a moment ago. So using that scenario, again, that could and will be different, you know, if you give us the go ahead to do this. But using that scenario, you can actually forecast what is going to mature, what your cash flow is, all those things. So you can see if we were to invest today and pick 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, and 24 month securities, you can see what the cash flow would be for those particular months. So I'm not going to go through all this, but you can take a look at the bottom line for each month, and you can bank on that once those securities are locked in. And so with the money market, you don't know what you're going to get, but with fixed income securities, you know when earnings are going to pay, which are every 6 months. You know when the security is going to mature, so you can see, you know, each month what you're going to see in terms of cash flow. And I think that's important, obviously, for a variety of reasons. But for one, you know, for reinvestment. But for number two, if you realize that you're going to need cash for some additional project, and you're like, it's going to start in September. Well, you see what's going to mature in these funds, and is it going to be enough? Hopefully it is, and you can bank on that, and maybe you don't reinvest at that point because you need that money for whatever the project is. So this just gives you a better picture on what you're gonna be able to see in these three funds, at least as time passes. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. So the last section of this just gives you a little bit more, if you scroll up a little bit, benefits. So what are the benefits of the strategy? What are the benefits of working and continuing to work with us? We've talked about some of these when we talked about the bond reserves. So in terms of this strategy, proactive management is going to always historically perform what the money markets can do over time. And that chart I showed you up above, where historically, the Fed funds rate has been low and money markets follow suit over time. And these funds are, obviously you have a budget that you're going to maintain every year. Over time, putting things in fixed income securities are going to outperform the money markets. But again, we talked about using the money market as a part of the strategy today. The laddered strategy itself, it does protect the portfolio if rates rise or fall. So if rates rise, then you have these securities maturing every quarter, and you can reinvest in higher yielding. And if they fall, then the latter part of the portfolio is protected with the higher yields. I already talked about how you can accurately predict earnings, which you can't do with the money market. And then having 25% potentially kept in the money market, liquid, as well as securities that will mature every quarter, adds to that peace of mind. So you're not, it's not like everything is locked in for long periods of time. You have access to the money, while giving yourself the chance to test the investment world. And we already talked about this. We'd work in conjunction with what you have with Lake Ridge, and talked about having the liquidity, as well as you do have diversification. What we do as part of our expertise and the strategy is we just monitor the market for you and have conversations with Lauren and Kelsey to say, hey, you know what, Fed funds rate is going to come down. It's changed now. It's not going to be 1 or 2 times. It's going to be 4 or 5 times this year. Things have changed. So we say, hey, you know what, maybe we want to invest a little bit more than the 25% that's remaining in the money market, as an example. So the benefits of working with us is, we would be your independent fiduciary, like we are with the bond proceeds. You wouldn't have access to just a generic investment team like some of the larger companies provide. Brad and I are your people. Hopefully Lauren and Kelsey can attest to that. We've been great conversations and keeping in touch, but not overwhelming them. We do provide strategy and market updates, reporting, analysis, similar to that cash flow forecast we showed you a page above. You already have in order to trade securities and have securities in your account, can you scroll up a little bit, Brad? You have to have a brokerage account, which you don't have, obviously, and Lake Ridge can't provide that, but you already have one with us for the bond proceeds. So transferring additional funds into an account like that with the provider that you guys are using, that we've helped you set up, is going to be straightforward. You don't have to set up a brand new account out of thin air. And sort of what we talked about last time, the way we get paid is similar. We get paid on a commission basis on the transaction, and there's never anything out of pocket for you guys. It's all based off of, if a security is yielding X, there's a commission that's embedded above that, similar to you buying a CD or a real estate commission or anything like that. So there's nothing that we would ever invoice you. So in the scenario that we presented above, and again, those can change, but whatever, our commission would be about 20 basis points or 0.2%, which equates to about $2,200. So not really that much. So there's not really, there's nothing out of pocket for you all, but it's not really that much in terms of a commission. But what we want to do is ultimately continue to work with you, earn your trust, and potentially grow the business. I mean, that's ultimately, we feel we can do a good job, and I think we have so far in the first month. And if you decide to expand into, expanding more of your general funds into other areas, we would be happy to be at least part of the discussion. So that's the last thing I have to talk about. Are there any questions or comments or thoughts?
So if the investments are forced quarterly, you would be getting a commission quarterly. Is that correct?
We just get a commission on the transaction. There's no continuing payment that gets paid to us, either out of pocket to you or drawn out of the account.
You said every transaction you get a commission, is that correct?
Right.
So if they come up quarterly, isn't that going to be a new transaction?
Good. Okay. Yes. So each reinvestment, we would make a commission on that. Yes.
So the reinvestments are less often, we would be paying less in commission.
Yeah, yeah. A perfect example would be in May of 2025 when you have that $132,000 T-bill mature. If we reinvested that at the time, it would be just based on the $132,000 reinvestment, not on the whole 1.4 million.
Correct. But if that investment was for 6 months instead of 4, we would be paying less commission.
Well, if it were
Right.
if it were for 6 months, the value would probably be a little bit more. So we broke up
Oh,
the remaining amount over that period of time. So if we did it 6 months, it would probably be the amount invested would be double. So it's the same, could be the same commission either way.
Okay,
Would make more sense. Yeah. Okay.
thank you.
Yeah. No, good question.
But it's gonna be more time for you guys. I mean, we're talking with them.
Yeah, I think we like the quarterly idea just for maintaining good liquidity.
Yeah.
That's kind of our main concern is to make sure we can pay the bills when we
Yeah,
need to.
yeah, yeah.
And, you know, if we get into this and we decide we really don't need it quarterly, we could expand this more. I think Brad and Dave are open to that and we could definitely explore that.
Well, and we expressed our concern to Brad and Dave too about, you know, we are taking them on as the investment professionals and
Yep.
taking some of the load in terms of that off of us. So yes, obviously they have to communicate with us, but we're not running numbers and
And trying to figure
Yeah.
out what.
Getting
Yeah.
bids from banks.
Yeah.
So
et
you
cetera, et
probably
cetera.
overall save some time. By
Yeah.
having-
yeah, I mean, I think the goal here, at least I know for Lauren and I, is to make the village money on the money we already have. I mean, this is
Yep.
the easy way to make money.
And-
So it's worth the time commitment, in our opinion.
Yep, yep.
I think our bigger fear prior to this was that the board was gonna be relying on us to also give investment advice
Yeah.
and run numbers and figure out what the best avenue, and we're not investment professionals. so.
Exactly, yeah.
What do
Okay.
you need from us tonight to approve the proposal?
If the board's comfortable.
I am.
Sure.
Is this dependent sinking fund wise? I mean, since we haven't had that discussion.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, we'll have to figure that
Okay,
part out. I mean, we could do it, but then we'd have to keep track of the
right.
sinking funds on the
Right.
back end. So we can chat
Yeah,
after
maybe
this,
hold that one
but
back and-
yeah.
So what do you want it to be? You want it to say motion to
Give-
approve AMG investment proposal?
Sure.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Okay, I motion to approve the AMG investment proposal.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Dave and Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank you.
Lauren, Kelsey, we'll be in touch with you guys tomorrow if that's okay.
Sounds good. I'm on tomorrow, but Lauren can take care of you, I'm sure.
We got meetings in the morning.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
all. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
trust.
Appreciate it. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Yeah, I don't think we have to necessarily. do
Start
the
with that one right
Yeah.
away. Yeah.
Honestly, the wastewater treatment plant alone is like $1 million right there of money that's
That's
there.
easy.
So, yeah.
One.
It's always just set there?
It's a replacement fund, which is required by the
I
DNR.
have it just sitting there.
Well,
Well,
you have to have it.
You have to, you can't use it you can only use it for certain replacements at the wastewater treatment plant. And we're required to have a certain balance in there.
But you can invest.
You can invest.
As long as it goes back to the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah,
Right.
we're not
Yeah.
using that interest on other
Yeah.
stuff. It'll
Yeah.
go right back
Yeah.
into there.
Okay.
So the interest on it has to go back to the waste.
For that one
For that one.
specifically.
Okay,
Yeah, like for the general, like the sinking fund one, I mean, the board would have control over either putting that in the sinking fund account, which obviously makes sense. Or if we have another project, it's like, let's use the interest and put it towards that. So, yeah.
okay.
Okay, consideration discussion website upgrade cost agreement, page 24.
Right, we had some kind of malicious activity on our website recently. We're getting like thousands of clicks in like a second on our webpage and like took down a server at our IT consultants. So anyway, in discussing that with them, they also said, hey, by the way, your website is super out of date and is going to be subject to more of these if you don't update it. So I was talking with them. They recommended an easy solution being to just convert to a WordPress website. So I had them quoted out. It's, what was it? Almost $3,000, $29.90. I think that's pretty reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah.
He said it's not gonna change a whole lot on like the look and feel of the website, but it'll update it to a more modern interface. And then we can have future discussions with them if we want to make more aesthetic updates, but at the very least, we'll be more protected and
When is the last time the website was updated?
When was the internet founded? No, I'm just kidding.
like a long time.
I mean, would it be beneficial to do that with them all at once from a cost perspective?
They completely rework it, you mean?
Yeah. you redesign it and-
I don't think so, because like what they're doing is basically just like taking what we have and like
Right.
moving it over.
Securing it.
Yeah. So I think like if we just, feel like that's gonna be the easiest to just get it
Sure.
done, and then we can decide in the future, like, actually, we hate how this is organized.
Right.
I think staff need to do some thinking on like what would be a better way to organize the website, and I'm even planning on maybe doing an audit of it and just kind of maybe reorganizing it to make more sense. So some of that work I think needs to go into it too. But yeah, I think we should continue these discussions on website upgrades.
I move to approve the website cost agreement with Computer Know-how.
Second.
This is just come out of the general fund.
I was gonna ask, so I would like to use sinking funds for this if people are okay with that.
As well.
Yeah, we don't have to designate that in a motion. You can just use it. with
Well, I
our-
do need
with
village,
our consent.
yeah, I
need
need
board
village board
approval.
approval to use sinking funds. So yeah, you could include that in.
Amend your,
So in part of
I
the motion.
amend my motion.
Mhm.
To move to approve the Computer Know-how website cost agreement using sinking funds.
Second.
okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item D, consideration discussion resolution 25-05, reserve fund debt policy. Page 26.
We pass this every year. It's just verifying that we're meeting our policies for reserve fund and debt policies. All the numbers are calculated in this to show you that we are meeting both of those. Happy to answer any questions on it.
I move to approve resolution 2505.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No. Hearing done, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Consideration discussion, innovation planning grant application, page 27.
All right, so this grant application came out of several different discussions, but one being there is a grant opportunity through the state to get funding to study innovation planning. That can look like a lot of different things, but you have to explore a possibility of transferring a service to another entity. And so in discussions with the Southwest Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, I've talked with Bill Omikin, who's pretty knowledgeable on these funds, as well as some EMS kind of professionals in the field. We thought EMS would be a great project for exploring different funding models. As you know, levy limits are very difficult and are constantly constraining our budget. And there are possible avenues for regionalization or county-wide type models that maintain our current EMS station, but funnel the money through a regional entity that could oversee administrative, et cetera, medical training, et cetera, over at EMS. So this grant application would just be exploring that opportunity. It's not marrying us to any decision. It's free money to study this and possibly even be a model for other communities. So I think we have a really great team assembled to explore this, and hopefully we'll get the grant funding to do it.
Who's writing it?
Troy at Southwest Wisconsin
Oh, okay.
Regional Planning. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
With Nancy.
yeah.
So it fits in your schedule, okay?
I'll make it work.
It's with the
Free money on.
Well, you're involved. so-
Yeah. But this is good. This will be a
Okay.
really good project. Yeah.
the idea that the county could use the benefits to attract volunteers or employees or like that would.
Yeah, and there is a loophole in levy limit state statute that says if EMS services are provided by the county, that they are not subject to levy limits. And so if there's a way that we can get the county involved and have them handle the like overarching EMS kind of organization, we can use the money that we're spending on EMS right now for other village needs, which would be amazing.
Huge. I mean, honestly, that's really a key benefit to going through the county is having more freedom with that money.
And I know that nothing's been discovered yet, it's a study. But so like the general idea, maybe possibility is that all the admin would be county-based, government-based, but we keep our EMS.
That would be an ideal situation. So they would oversee our EMS,
Yeah.
but we would still maintain our location. So response times would still be decent. I think that's the biggest drawback to regionalization is that you get a station that's further away and longer
Right.
response times.
So is this just a discussion item? You're just updating us or do you need anything from us on this?
Yeah, if the board is okay, I will submit the grant application. But I didn't want you guys to be caught off guard by this if we get the grant.
Oh, that's great.
So you don't need a motion to.
You are welcome to if you want, but it's not
Okay,
necessary, I don't think.
what's the court feel?
Do you want one?
Sure.
Okay.
Make me happy.
I think it's especially,
Motion to approve the innovation planning grant application?
Second.
okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, motion carries.
With Bill Olmsted.
He's a great resource.
Yeah, I talked to him about.
He knows a lot of things about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came to the county last week to put out a presentation about us hiring a county administrator. He did a very good job, him and his counterpart. Okay, consideration discussion resolution 15-06 cemetery fee schedule. Or
Pretty straightforward. I kept the same fees as the Swiss Church was charging for plots. Other than changing church member versus non-church member, I did resident versus non-resident. We're also recommending some burial fees. So a plot marking fee, I guess, is pretty common among municipal cemeteries. That would be $100. And then we've already gotten requests to remove snow for funerals. Removing snow for a path to get to the plot. And we're currently using public works staff to do that. And so I would like to charge for that as well.
Does resident mean just village resident or?
Yes.
So if they live in town.
Goes to the
straight
grave.
out?
Say
Because
what?
it's all about property taxes.
Yeah,
And
this
our
is funded by
village-
property tax.
No, it makes sense, but if I'm a town resident and I live 2 blocks outside of the village line, I have to pay $1,500 more.
Well, you pay at the pool, you're gonna pay at the cemetery. I'm just kidding.
I love it. I think it's great. I'm just asking questions.
Jamie would like to make motions to change.
What would you like?
No, I'll go with full body. I understand.
Full body
It says full body in there. It just made me think,
as opposed to.
right, half body, right?
That's for free.
But then they explained it's full body or cremation. It makes
Remember
total
someone from
sense.
my paper still listening?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm
the one not saying the crazy
Cemetery
shit.
fee schedule.
So everybody done?
We need a second.
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 second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Do we have a library update?
No update today, just let you know that Amy is planning to be back in the office as of tomorrow.
Okay.
Cool.
And we did get the grant agreement today.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. So that's exciting.
Does the sale go through on the building finally, or is it still?
No, we had to wait until the grant agreement.
Right.
Okay.
So now that we have that,
Why
we
those
can
guys were-
close.
You understand?
Yeah, that crazy thing. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Okay.
That's okay.
So that's what we
That's
got
not
the
a problem.
email.
Just a little.
Yep, yeah.
It's all set.
No, I'll be right.
Yeah.
I'll be
I
right.
read it, but. Okay, thank you. Okay. Consideration discussion cemetery board appointments. Lauren's got,
I have the appointments. I can just read the names.
Uh-huh.
Larry Stussy, Greg Temke, Sally Nealis, Andy Craven, Christina Schneider. Andy Craven is representing the Swiss Church. Christina has
Been doing it
done
forever.
cemetery manager.
Yeah.
And the others have
Greg just
expressed
volunteered,
interest.
called me and volunteered, so I left.
I
To
don't
do
know
what?
that Larry Susan
Just be
guy
on the
by
board.
way.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Good job,
we need
Larry.
a-
I'm the closest to being there.
No,
Well,
Tragically.
you see the way I drive, I'll probably beat you there.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Well, you're in the village, so you get premier, right?
The whole body too.
We already bought ours at a cheaper rate.
We need a motion to accept the cemetery board appointments.
I motion to approve the cemetery board appointments.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else from the board? If not, we are adjourned.
Record. Oh, yeah.